Welcome everyone, today we have a special guide for Diablo 4, and in today's video we'll be looking at a level 100 Druid. And oh boy, I'm so excited for this one, because as you guys can see over here, we have over 235% companion damage, and we'll be doing a lot of damage with companions, and we'll be resetting the companion active spells when we critical strike, and we do critical strike a lot with this build. So in this video, we'll briefly go through the skill tree choices, the legendaries and also unique choices possibilities, and also we'll go through the paragons. I have made the paragon board extra clean this time. You can see that I'm using more abilities to pass through the paragon board to save us more points, and I didn't use all the reynolds, so I'm at level 100 with 25 reynolds. We still have 5 points of paragons to be spared into other stuff. Now, as a brief summary to this build, we'll be going with an Earth Druid that have a chance to proc 100% guaranteed critical strike for the next 5 seconds, and this also regenerates all of our spirit. And when we're critical striking, we also proc more of these procs to give us more spirit and also more critical strike chance. And while we're critical striking with our Earth spell Pulverize, we'll be actively summoning our companions to do more damage. So we have all 3 of the companions to the max level. Level 5 wolves, level 5 poison creeper, and also level 5 ravens with additional companion damage. And when we critical hit with any of our spells, we also have the ability to reset the companion cooldowns at 20% chance with a lucky hit. So this build is very interesting, and I'm really excited to be sharing this with you guys. Now coming over to our skill choices, so what you're going to see is I'm going with Windsmere, and simply because we want to keep a distance, we want to be like a summoner, and our skills mostly will be at range. So Windsmere is pretty good for the range ability. This allows us to have a vulnerability debuff and also the chance of getting additional spirit. Now coming over to the core section, we'll be turning Pulverize into a core spell with an Earth spell. So Pulverize itself is a wear-based spell, it is a damage physical spell, and it is also a shift-shifting spell. And this will be very important to know in the later stages. Now, as you guys can see over here, we'll be turning Pulverize into additional shockwave on its path, turning this spell into a ranged spell. And here on the gloves, Pulverize would now become Earth spell, and this will be very important to trick more damage and also abilities. Now here we'll be going with some of the passives that provide us with maximum spirit. Because our keystone allows us to instantly regain all the spirit, the higher spirit we have, the better it is for this build. And here we'll be going to spend more spirit for more damage. Now it is optional guys, if you find yourself a very short on spirit and you find yourself needing our spirit, you can swap the 3 points for additional damage over here for the additional spirit gain from the basic abilities. Now for defense, we'll go with 1 point into Earthen Bulwark and also its upgrades, making us unstoppable and also providing us with Fortify. Now even though this is only 1 ability point, we'll have legendary aspects that allows us to double amount of the duration and also double amount of the defense capacities of Earthen Bulwark, which is going to be very important. Now coming over to the fun part, so notice that we perked everything pretty much in the companion section. So level 5 of the wolves, which provide us with more damage when we critical strike and also immobilize enemies, with attack speed and also bonus damage. Level 5 into poison creeper allows us to do double duration of poisoning, which will deal more damage when enemies are poisoned, and also a double duration of extended duration of immobilize. We have a lot of ways to increase crowd control, and this will be very powerful for the 3-second immobilize. And finally, the ravens will deal tons of damage, 224% at level 5. And here we'll be having additional critical chance and also additional vulnerability with the ravens. We'll be also going with 30% companion damage, and over here, because we'll be a range kind of druid, we also gain additional damage to distant enemies. So we can send our companions out and also send our spells out. And if they're slowed, stunned, immobilized, which will do all that, they will also take 18% more damage. Now that we have taken up all the active spell slots, we'll be going into more passives over here. So here what you're going to see is, I will be going with earthing spells which provide us with this additional damage when enemies are immobilized and disabled. And here we also have the critical strike with earthing spells fortifiers. I don't think this is going to be a big deal, but if you're looking for defense capacities, I think 1 point is really good. Because later on you're going to see, we're going to have 100% to critical strike for the next 5 seconds, and each hit is going to make us more fortified. Now over here, we also have poison enemies who are slowed, and this is really good, because if you can constantly make enemies slowed, you gain the bonus damage from slowed enemies. And while enemies are poisoned, they take 30% more critical strike damage. And because we're 100% critical striking, so this kind of allows us to poison creeper enemies for about 6 seconds, and while they're poisoned, they take more damage, they're more slowed. Now finally, I have a bit of points left over, and what I wanted to do is, I went into quick shift, which allows us to change shifting our form. So because we start with a human form, and when we shift into the Druid form, which allows us to go into werebear form, we'll have additional perks. And this perk should also persist with the companion spells. So changing forms allows us to deal more damage this way as well. So this is going to buff the core spell and likely going to buff the companions. Now of course guys, you can go into other perks like this one to get more fortified and even more fortified over here. And finally we have the keystone passive, and this one is going to be the Earthen Might. So starting chance is 5% chance of triggering this special effect, which allows us to regain all the spirit and guaranteed to critical hit for the next 5 seconds. That's really powerful, right? The second ability is that 10% chance for this to be triggered. So when the spirit itself is actually So when we're actually landing a critical strike chance, we have additional 10% chance of lucky hit with triggering this special effect. And finally, if enemies are stunned, immobilized, or knocked back, and that's a 10% chance. So together, I think we're looking at a 25% chance of triggering this effect with lucky hit, and we can be doing a lot of that. So each time this is triggered, we'll gain all the spirit back, then we start to do your critical strike damage for the next 5 seconds, and this will allow us to trigger more of this effect, which is really good. Now before we go over to the legendaries, let's have a look at the spirit animals we're going to pick. We'll be picking the companion for the wolves for the double spirit, and here we'll go with eagle. Now it is optional whether we want to go with eagle or go with something else. For the wolf, we're going to go with this one. This is going to be the core pack, and we're going to get this one as quickly as we can. So 20% chance of lucky hit with your skills to critical strike, and when you have critical strike, you have a chance of resetting your cooldowns of your companion skills. And imagine critical strike for the next 5 seconds with this spell, right? And when you're critical striking, all of the companion actives will be reset, and those will be very, very powerful, especially with so much critical damage. Now the second ability I pick for the wolf is gonna be that dealing damage have a chance of restoring turn spirit. I'm really worried that we will be a little short on spirit, and if that is the case, this will be really good. But if we're not that short on spirit, we don't have to go with wolf for the double picks. We can go with eagle for critical chance and also for critical damage. Or we can go with deer, which if we take away eagle, if we go with deer, we can get 10 more spirit this way. The higher spirit we have, the more ability we can cast more spells. And the more spells we cast, and likely we can trigger the key passive for more spirit. So as for the spirit animals, it is really up to us. I think this one is the one we must have. Everything else is up to us. Do you need more spirit? Do you need more critical rate? Do you want more critical damage? Or do you want more maximum spirit? Now coming over to the legendaries and also unique choices. Yes, we also have some really nice uniques. We'll talk about this at the end of this part. So as you guys are gonna see, I have selected a lot of offensive legendary aspects, so much that we can't really fill up the Druid, right? And also have selected a few more utility ones just because this looks really good. But unfortunately, we are left with limited amount of choices over here. So I'll go through with you guys my choices, and later you can look into those other choices. Those are also pretty decent, but if you can get this one going, I think we'll be very strong in the early, mid-game, even end-game. So going through the offensive codex over here, we'll go with the one-hand weapon first. Now I haven't decided which of the weapon I want to use, whether it's a two-hand or one-hand. Well, we'll go through the aspects over here. If I was going with a two-hand weapon and I go with a werewolves, those would be my highest source of damage. But if I'm only go with one-hand weapons, then I can go with the companions, getting more damage for all the companions. So it really depends on the build. Do you feel like you're doing the most damage with werewolves, or do you feel like you want to do more damage with companions? And finally, if you do want to do more damage with Pulverize, which I still recommend going with companions, right? You can put Pulverize on the two-hand weapon. But for now, we keep those on the one-hand weapon. But yes, you can put this one on the two-hand weapon to gain the double bonus. So the first one we have is that wolf companions are now werewolf companions, dealing additional up to 100% more damage. And this can become 200% more damage. Now the thing about spreading rabies is not that good. I tried it, it's not that good, guys. I did try this in beta, it's very underwhelming to be honest. Now the second major source of ability damage is that we gain additional 1 companion, and the companion skills now deals 20 up to 30% more damage, because we get 150% more benefit on the amulets. Now as we follow through onto the next legendary, you can see that core spells now deals additional up to 6% more damage for each companion. So we'll be looking at 3 wolves and also Van Creeper and also the birds. So we're looking at about 5 companions, and with 5 companions we'll be dealing additional at least 40% more damage, and this will be very powerful for the core spell. So on the topic of the core spell, Pulverize will be turned into an earth spell with the offensive codex, and this allows us to do more damage over time. And also Pulverize will become a ranged spell. This deals additional damage and also hits a lot of enemies. Finally, because we have a lot of critical strike, each time we critical strike will increase our attack speed by about 15 to 25%. So what that means is when you actually trigger your special key passive, then you have a 100% critical chance for 5 seconds, and then you gain the attack speed, and then you start to attack really fast, which allows you to deal more damage. Now briefly going through the other skills of choices. So for the helmet, I still like to have the increased crowd control duration and also increased damage to unstoppable enemies, which would be really good for us. And this is a major source of boost up damage against world balls and also against monsters we can't stun. And the increase of crowd control duration is really good because we have so many crowd control. As for the chest, I decided to go with earth spells with slow enemies because I really want to enjoy the slow debuff, and this will provide us more damage when enemies are slowed. But as you guys are going to see over here, there's a lot of other choices we can go with. For example, we can have when we're fortified, earth spells gain 2 more rank, which can potentially allow us to do more damage and also become more defensive. Because if we have a look at the next part, we're going to have one of the defensive aspects, which allows us to have the Earthen Bulwark to increase duration by 6 seconds, and killing enemies with earth spells also increases barrier level. So if you have a look at Earthen Bulwark, without this legendary codex or aspects, you're looking at a 3-second duration. But with this one, you're looking at a 9-second duration. So all of a sudden you're tripling up your duration for the shield to become more defensive and also more fortified. Now finally, we also have a lot of choices for the boots. Because we'll be critical striking, having additional movement speed is really good. But on the other hand, if you want to go with the fortified spells gain 2 more ranks, it's not bad. Or we can swap into another utility or mobility choices. So those are optional as well, so really see how we want to go. And I do feel like the Druid is a little slower compared to the other classes, so getting more movement speed is definitely good. Now, if you guys haven't subscribed, it is a really good time to do so, because I'll be covering tons of Diablo 4 related topics and also videos and also guides. We'll be looking to the top meta builds, non-meta builds, leveling up, and also Paragon tricks. We're also looking to the latest events and also official updates and also changes to different characters and also different builds in the game. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also turn the notification on, because a lot of you who are watching the videos have not subscribed. You can see 80% of the viewers who are watching our videos have not subscribed, so make sure you subscribe to stay tuned for the latest update for Diablo 4. Now coming over to our final part of the video. I do apologize guys, I think I spoke a little fast. I'm too excited for the build, and I'm really liking the Druid. I do want to play the Druid as my second class, and hopefully we can get some of those legendaries. And do keep in notice a lot of those legendary codex or aspects, you have to find them. You cannot be crafting them from the codex, and this makes this build extremely difficult but extremely rewarding. So going through my pathways for my Paragon, you can see that I'm taking the right side because we can deal more damage this way. And here, one of the first choice of my Glyph is that will be increased damage when we go into werebear form. And I'm looking for the main stats. So let me show you guys what I mean by that. So here you can see the Druid main stats is going to focus on willpower. We actually don't have increased critical chance stats. We have dexterity to increase dodge rate, we have intelligence to give us more resistance and resource regeneration. So those are not bad. So I'm skipping the strength if I can. So we focus on willpower. And secondly guys, if you look at the summary, the Druid actually have massive amount of increased core spell critical strike damage and also additional critical strike damage. So what we're looking for over here is we're looking for all sorts of damage bonus, and you can see a good summary over here with different damage bonus and also different ways of getting more damage. And of course guys, my favorite is the companion skill deals 35% more damage. I'll show you guys how very soon. So here we'll be going with this one, which allows us when we turn into a werebear, we'll be dealing more damage in the werebear form. And this is very high because we can get 70 willpower, and this is going to be in the main stats for us. And we also get damage reduction, which is really good. Now, so we follow through the pathing over here and go to the second board, what you're going to see is I'm trying an interesting technique with pathing the board this time. I'm trying to path on the top and also on the side, which allows you guys and me, myself, to select different board depending on what I need at the time. So I can go for this board, I can go for this board, and finally I can go for this board last. And do keep in mind guys, I have optimized the glyph choices. Notice here it's 47 intelligence, and over here it is 39 intelligence. This is not that high actually, but this one it is 49 dexterity. So I'm maximizing the availability of the points within the zone to give us more benefits. So as we pass through the first board, you're going to see the first one we're going to go with legendary is that after spending 75 spirit, you'll be dealing 30% more damage, and this is really good with abilities and also skill choices. As you go through this one, you're going to see a bit of the red and blue ones. You don't really need those to be honest, and here you're going to get maximum spirit, and this will be really good. Higher spirit we have, the more spirit we restore, the more damage we deal. And you get to see more spirit over here. Now as you come over here for the glyph, this is the interesting one for the companions. You can get a 49 intelligence over here, which give us a tremendous boost of intelligence in terms of companion damage. So this is how I got the 235% over here. And I check a lot of the board. This one is by far the best one for the Druid to place the companions. Now over here, we can also gain some benefits with all resistance, and also we gain some cost skill damage, which are not bad as well. So the next part is you have two choices. You can come over to the left hand side or the right hand side. So let me show you guys what is available here, which is really tempting. So we're going to skip this legendary perk because we're not mainly going with earth spells. We're going with companions and also earth spells as a hybrid druid. So here we'll be getting some bonus damage to earth spells and also critical damage against crowd control enemies, which are really good. Here is the big one. So here we'll go with a 240% increased rear knots, and this also provides us with more critical strike with shift shifting. So the big one is we'll be dealing additional 102% damage, critical damage with earth spells. And on this side, we also gain 27% resistance with all elements because of this spell buffing us with the rear knots. Now alternatively guys, if you want to take the top path, you can also come over here to deal more damage while healthy. This is when we have a little defensive with the earthen bulwark. So you get more damage with healthy against healthy enemies, and once you get over to this glyph, you can be dealing additional damage as you become more healthy. So I believe this one is about 53% more damage, and while doing so, you'll gain more armor in werebear form. You also will be gaining more damage in the werebear form. So here's a legendary. When we're in the werebear form, we can deal up to 1 to 50% more damage. Now finally, as you guys reach close to level 90 or even 85 or 95, you'll be able to go for the final Paragon board. And for this Paragon board, I recommend going with this one. And this will be the ultimate ability to gain the most critical strike damage with a core spell of course. So here, this is by far the best board for dexterity because I counted all the boards. This is by far with a 1 up to 49 dexterity. And this will give us the highest critical damage for the core spells, as you guys can see over here. Now, it is optional to path from the left hand side or the right hand side, but keep in mind guys, if you go from the right hand side and while you're going for the other perks, you're saving 1 point. If you go for the left hand side, you're spending 1 extra point to path over here. Now while we're over here, we'll also be gaining an additional source of damage, and this will be a really good multiplier. So we deal more damage against enemies who are poisoned, and then Creeper can poison for at least 6 seconds. And this is because of double duration, right? So you see more damage to poison, and also more damage to poison. And here we do reduce damage when enemies are poisoned, which is really good to make us durable. Now because over here we also have 5 points to spare, you can go with other points that reduce damage taken, or you can try to perk into other points that increase damage taken by enemies. Now it is going to be a little harder guys if you try to go for one of the last legendaries. We're a little short, so you have to kind of take a point from somewhere else if you want to go for one more legendary, and this will be your choice. Now I'm really excited about this build, and usually I give you guys an alternative build, right? But I'm so excited about this build, I don't think we need to adjust anything. We just have to see which of the spirit animals work the best for us, and then we'll go from there. And I'm loving the companions. You get to get all the companions, and if you do get an amulet that +2 or up to 4 skill ranks to all the companions, this will be bonkers. You'll be doing so much damage, you'll be off the roof. So quite excited for this Druid build. The only downside I'm not running this build as my starter for the server is because it's going to be hard to get this working. Because here all the legendaries, you have to farm them, you have to find it. they're not available from the codex from the dungeons. So do keep in mind, guys, only this one's available. And most other ones, you have to find it yourself. And this makes things extremely more difficult. But it is going to be very rewarding if you can get this one going. So let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think about this Druid build? Are you going to try this Druid build if you get the items? Or are you going to try a different Druid build? I'm planning to make a leveling Druid build for you guys, so you can be leveling fast and farming for more items and going to this build. Now before you go, and if you guys didn't know, we have a new YouTube channel. And if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and check out the behind the scenes and also fun clips and also more stories about us. And then you get to know me a little more personally instead of just reading the news and also the games, right? So I want to share a little bit more with you guys. So make sure you check this channel out if you're interested about Matt and also Uni. She's really funny too, and she's really shy. So I want to give her a surprise and do a shout out for the new channel to get some subscribers. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.